Christmas, Tuvalu, and welcome to Doctor Who, Season 1, Episode 3, The Unquiet Dead, which is, of course, not quite the start, but the trial and the testing of a beloved tradition that, you know, only a real monster would get rid of. Like, you'd have to be an absolutely awful person. And that, of course, would be the Doctor Who Christmas specials. Every year, people gather around and watch a new Doctor Who episode that happens to take place on Christmas Day. And it's often not particularly Christmassy. It's often actually, like, quite dark. But, you know, that's not the point. You know, sometimes you just want to, like, hear about some goblins who want to eat a baby. Or, you know, like a third of the world jumping off of roofs or stuff like that. And this was the start. Of course, this was the secret Christmas special. I'm, of course, joined once again by my brother Caden.
Hello.
You're very respectful during the intros. It's a very different having you on these streams as opposed to having Alex just in the room with the stream,
Yeah.
not even on the stream.
I know the order of operations, you know, that's got to take place.
Nowadays, sometimes they see that I'm live and they, like, ran down to talk about how they think River Song is in the new series or something like that. I don't even remember. But today, I moved this around when I couldn't see it, which was a really dumb thing to do. There we go. Yes, if you don't know what we're doing, we got to do this whole spiel that I'm sure I'll get down at some point. We are basically going to be recording an audio commentary track live. For copyright reasons, of course, I cannot just stream the audio or video of a Doctor Who episode, so as you'll see, we will have some things to help you keep in sync, but you're going to have to bring your own video. This is unfortunate, because there are two common speeds for Doctor Who episodes that are inconsistently streamed or released or whatever. If you're watching this live, we are live, there's the keyword, we are going to be watching it at the US release speeds, which I think, does this have like a previously on? No, we just get into the cold open, and then it's got some next times on. So that's the basically 47-minute runtime. The UK original broadcast is about 4% faster. Yes, that's the way. And you'll see in the description, it'll tell you which one this is, because eventually, at my convenience, I will be uploading these at the corrected speeds. And really, really annoyingly, YouTube does let you, you know, change the speed of a video, but you can only watch it 5% slower or faster. And Doctor Who is 4%. That's better, but you still get noticeably off after not that much time. It's like almost 5 minutes, I think, across a whole episode at 4%. But yes, if you get out of sync, that would be why. But yeah, I think that's all the rambling I gotta do for these. Caden, any thoughts before we get into this episode?
This one, I still don't remember, even after we talked about it last time. My brain keeps thinking of that one with the Cybermen, I think when they're introduced,
No,
at least in this series. I don't recall this one.
That is not at Christmas. That is not with this doctor. So
that's what I don't quite exactly know what I'm going into on this one.
Yeah, people don't really talk about it too much in the fan base. I guess it's middling. I mean, I also think if you ask the fan base, like, most of Doctor Who is, like, bad or at least meh. But that's kind of, I don't know, that's just the thing about this show, is weirdly, a lot of episodes just seem to be kind of bad, but we like it anyway. But yeah, no, this one, you know, I quite like it. There's not a bad one in this season, really. You know, the worst you can say about it is the Celine fart too much, and that's about it. That's why I hate this episode, though. Yeah, no, we'll get there. That's next week.
Oh.
Next week, we got the farting Celine. They're a villain who definitely deserve to be on the kids' spin-off.
How exciting.
If you've never seen the Sarah Jane Adventures, first off, it's good. But, right, I'm just going to say one word. They got, like, a baby Celine. That's not baby one word. There's, like, a little kid Celine. And I was like, yes, I needed it. I didn't know the world needed this, but the world needed a child Slovene. It's great.
Hmm.
But yes, I think that's probably. Oh yeah, that was the other thing I wanted to say. Is I've of course seen this episode before. I've seen the whole series, save some of the missing episodes. I've got an expansive Big Finish collection that is ever growing. It's like 10 items bigger since the last time I mentioned. um, but yeah, so that's where we are. And Caden has, of course, seen through Asylum of the Daleks and apparently thought that was so bad he just gave up. I really can't wait to get to Asylum of the Daleks with you so you can kind of see and live.
Yeah.
You'll probably be underwhelmed. You'll probably be like, that wasn't too bad. After so much talking about how it apparently literally got you off of Doctor Who.
No, I think I'm gonna watch it and I'm gonna stop this. I won't be able to do anymore.
You're gonna be done.
It's gonna be so bad.
The funny thing is you might, because this isn't a good way to watch Doctor Who for the first time. And we've talked a bit off air. Like, we might watch the episodes and then come on and watch it again because we like doing this. We'll have been doing it for probably like a year and a half or so at that point. I think that's. Let me check. Hang on. Is that like the midpoint of Middle Who? Is we're gonna call. If I just start calling it Middle Who, maybe it'll catch on. I really want. I joked about this before the whole season 14, season 1 thing. Is if we ever got a new era of Doctor Who, what we're watching now is Middle Who. You got classic, middle, and modern.
Yeah.
But I like the funny thing in the fandom. I can't remember what they called the middle era, but you have the classic era. You had something else, and then Who Dis, because it's Who for Disney. It's Disney Who. And like the Who Dis era is pretty good for the life of me, but there were some great fan suggestions.
What if they make another series though? Then there is no middle.
Yeah, it's like modern and postmodern and pre-modern, It's like the modern era for like art and architecture and so many things was genuinely like 100 years ago. It's just they haven't renamed it, so it's like, come on, let's move that goalpost up a little bit. Let's move it up. But yeah, the Asylum of the Daleks is like, here you can see it, Caden. It's basically the middle of the series, and about the point that I think Doctor Who lost the general population. That's definitely the start of the end times, I think. Regardless of what you might think personally of the show, that's around the point. That's actually where it lost me. Where did it lose me originally? Not because of quality, but because they took it off of Prime. And there literally was no way to watch it. It was literally like the episode before you figure out who River is. Yeah, closing time. Here we go. Closing time. It's too blurred for the audience. But Closing Time was the last episode I saw before they removed it from Prime. And I was like, wow, we really needed to go one more. Like, just one more episode before. Yeah, that was a really bad spot. But hey, I got back eventually. I got back.
That's funny.
Let me take a drink. And then are you ready for... I don't know, London or wherever I wish I remember where the Doctor promises Rose to go, because it's Cardiff. It's the spoilers. They go to Cardiff. They got to set up the Torchwood spin-off, which I've only seen the first 2 seasons of.
I was born ready.
I've heard the third season's really good. I just was like, I know it's 6 parts, so I gotta like wait till the time I've actually can watch 6 parts. I've never gone back to it. Yeah, Torchwood. Better than people say it is. That's my review of Torchwood. There we go. That was the adult, edgy spin-off. An adult in the sense that, like, that means there's boobs and stuff on the screen. Actually, I don't think there's any nudity in Torchwood, but you know what I'm going for. You know the type. You know the type. When they say it's an adult show, but what they really mean is that, like, a 14-year-old wrote it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we are about to do a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 go countdown, and on go, everybody hit play. There we go, exactly 10 minutes of intro on the recording. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. I always think I'm off time, but I'm literally watching a timer when I do that. Yeah.
Do they normally have openings, or does it normally go right into the intro? Am I crazy?
Actually, the first two were weird because they didn't have cold opens. But every episode is gonna have a cold open until like the 13th Doctor, and then we're gonna go like stab Chibnall because we're so angry that he got rid of him. There. I do like
45.
The guy's name is
gone.
Sneed.
Sneed?
Sneed. It's like he said the name was like Sneed's Funeral Services or something. April Fools. Yep. It just happens, you know, sometimes.
He's seen that before.
Yeah, it just happens. See? It's real unfortunate.
I would
It was something
hate
about
to be in that line of work.
the like lack of sewer systems back in the day. Corpses just did this. It's complicated. Yeah. Is that the regeneration effect? I think they might reuse that for a generation, which is kind of funny. Boom, 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 boom. Hey, the intro doesn't sound as slowed down. Maybe I've gotten used to it. Or they did. Maybe there's something wrong with the first 2 episodes. I don't know. I said before, the only time I actually hear the slowdown in the audio is with this intro. And even as a kid, it always felt like it was holding back. And I only learned much later. That's because it's being slowed down 4%.
Were they traveling at the very end of last episode?
No,
Or am
they
I
were getting
crazy?
some chips.
Oh, yeah, they were. Okay, never mind. I didn't know if it was another just
Look at
right continuation.
Big Finish looks at that and decides they went on like 12 adventures in the comics or something.
It's a horrible job.
So this actress goes on to play, she's one of the main characters of Torchwood. And I mean, I don't see her as that, which is good. I see her as this character. You know, not to perpetuate a stereotype or judge you, but do you want subtitles? Because Welsh can be a hard accent for some.
I think I'm getting it. It doesn't seem that bad.
I'm fine. I know a lot of Americans are weirdly like, you know, like they couldn't understand the Ninth Doctor or something, but I just, I thought I'd ask.
Thank you.
Naples, I knew it was Italy. You know how we went to the end of the world? That was my 3rd time. Ooh, here's a debate. Fun fact, those instructions get reused a lot. I think they might even be from the classics.
That's funny.
But here's a fun debate for you, Caden. Do you
Mm-hmm.
want the companions in the like contemporary clothes or the clothes from the time that they're going to? Because
Yeah, I was
it's
just
really
wondering. I mean,
inconsistent.
yeah, I was about to say they don't always do that.
I think the 11th Doctor like never does it. I can't think of Amy and Rory in them. They're like
Yeah.
50-50 with 9 and 10. But it
I think it's
annoys a lot of people, yeah.
kind of funny. I mean, I don't know. They're back in the 1800s and they just look like they're so out of place, but no one even pays attention to it.
Wait till the 4th Doctor, who travels with a tribal woman in revealing fur rags and a robot dog from the future.
Does the Doctor get dressed up here?
Yeah,
Mm.
that's why I changed my thumbnail art a little bit.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
this will be nice.
Who do you think this is? His name's on the poster in the background.
Mr. C. Charles Dickens.
I was hoping you wouldn't know and you would just read Charles Dick, which is what it said. Free. Ooh. I always found this weird as a kid. Like, I never pictured that Charles Dickens would just like gone on stage and read his books. But you know, apparently, I assume they didn't just make this up. I mean, I listen to audio dramas, so.
That's a funny mental image.
Well, that's what he's gonna do.
Yeah, I'll get to see it. Whoa. What did he break?
See, they dressed up.
That's so mean.
You're a beautiful woman, probably. See? My fans are understanding the true power of these thumbnails. Like, I can change the shirt color and the time vortex. I know it's because it's the first season, but I like this. I think most companions, they get something, but it's not as, like, novel as it is with Rose and 9. You know, they do plenty of fun things with new companions, but I really like this take.
That it is immediately noticeable
Yeah,
how horrifying
well, you took a little
she is in
bit.
the crowd.
You took
Oh
a
my
little bit,
gosh.
you know?
I had to sit in my shock.
It must suck. Like, you go out and you're like, you see that, like, upset old woman in the stage. It's like, oh no, I'm gonna be heckled. Like, oh my. It's for charity, please. The doctor knows this isn't Italy. I was gonna explain a bit. I feel like I don't have to explain how Cardiff is viewed. I think they did a good job there. By the way, they film in Cardiff.
Oh. Haunting.
I need to read this eventually. He does a good job selling it here. If I do ever read A Christmas Carol, though, that's going to be a weird line to read. It's like, I've read this bit.
Be so mean if it was just a
Yeah.
normal person in the audience. He starts pointing at him.
It wasn't that bad. Well, they were like glowing blue, to be fair. They're, at that point, you're not a normal person. Like, they're so. I mean, I guess they're Welsh, but they're still British, and by God, they're going to be calm about this evacuation. It's a good ad, though. Like, how efficient is that corpse disposal service?
Goodness.
I really like the guy in this episode. I just think he's a fun character. No way he saw Rose, so I just choose to believe he saw like Gwyneth and assumed it was Rose. Like, oh, humans, they all look the same. Wait, he... No, I'm gonna go back. He was at the start of A Christmas Carol, but he made his coachman just sit out there on Christmas the whole night. Probably takes like 3 hours.
He's well paid. That was a good interaction.
Yep. They just wanted Christopher Eccleston to know what he was in for after he stopped being the Doctor. You know, once the Doctor, always the Doctor. I'm gonna call him Charlie from now on.
I think they made their situation worse.
Well, they don't know what they're doing, you know? What would you do?
I don't know if I'd kidnap someone.
We cleaned the fireplace this morning. It did that too.
That's not good.
Yeah. That was a nice room, though. When I die, I want to live in a room like that.
Including ghost corpses, or
Well, I guess I'd be the
leave
corpse.
those.
Yeah.
I like that the only thing to get him invested was just talking about how cool he is, and now he's on
yeah.
board. He's gonna
Yeah.
have.
You know, I mean, that's how I got you on here, you know? Took a while, but
Oh, it works.
yeah. What we did before going live is I showed him the scene from Church on Ruby Road where the 15th Doctor's dancing in the club, just to remind him what we're working towards. I just like them. They're so fun, like the whole episode.
Why do they need murderous intent?
Maybe they just need a hug. Is that what you're saying? Like, he did kill that guy earlier.
Yeah.
I didn't realize till a companion jokes about it later on. But they met Charles Dickens at Christmas, and there were ghosts. Because he's famous for writing A Christmas Carol, a story about ghosts.
That did not
Welcome
slap
to
into my
Doctor
brain.
Who, where famous people constantly face alien threats related to what they're famous for. Wait till we meet Agatha Christie. He's like, oh no, a Doctor Who fan.
He's on a first name basis.
It's the setup for Torchwood, the spin-off series.
There he goes. He's loving that.
I think I like in the Ninth Doctor so much on rewatches because he's very much how like I react It's like such a good line, such fun. Like he's very much the Doctor's more audience identification than Rose, honestly. Look at that. That's the pose in my thumbnail. I know how to pick them. Oh, I was waiting for the response, man.
Yeah.
I was real. We were both just real into that.
Good speech.
Yeah. I mean, this season one's so solid. There's so many good little speeches, even if they're not big things like that, you know. The more things change.
You see, really, all this is going on, and they just left the driver back out in the cold again.
Ah, yeah. Well, he's probably got like a stables here or something, at least.
I don't know. I bet he's probably off on his own adventure.
Yeah, I want big finish. Get on it. I want the adventures of Charles Dickens' Stable Boy. I think she reacted to the bum comment before Rose said it. But, you know, she's got weird things going on. Like, it's not continuity, it's detail. It's written by Russell T Davies. He can do no wrong.
Is that half of a apple behind Rose?
I don't think they're doing so good. I think they're onions, maybe. But I was looking at it too.
But
Those
only
cabbages
half.
look good.
Oh yeah, those are pristine.
Look, it's hard to keep fruit. I also like that that's the setup for the episode with Rose's dad, is bringing it up now. Metal birds. That was awful Welsh, I'm sorry. I'll never do that again, at least for a while. We need a Welsh companion. I want this accent all the time. Well, go
I can
watch
get behind that.
Torchwood. Bad Wolf, there we go. I talked over it. We caught it this one. I don't think there's a Bad Wolf in the first story. Let me check. Come on, yada yada. This isn't even Screen Rant, but where's the list? Yeah, it's not in the first episode. It took me a lot of watch throughs to get that, but I hope you did.
Yeah. Funny.
Boom! Sorry.
It is a trick, really. This is all a facade. Stable boy is pulling the wires.
It's actually, they're in a studio in Cardiff. This is VFX right there. Her name is Gwyneth, and the Torchwood character she plays is called Gwen. It's like... it's in her contract. I need to get back into Time War stuff, like audio.
It's interesting that throughout all of this episode just doesn't come back. I don't remember this.
I mean, most episodes don't.
Yeah. I would have thought I'd remember it more of this season, though, because I don't know. I feel like I did.
Is it not coming back to you at all?
Nah, I just don't remember this episode.
Huh. Well, as I said, it's one that's not brought up a lot. I mean, it serves its purpose really well. It's a solid story, but I guess there's not a lot that makes it stand out in particular. Like, this whole season is solid. You know, there's not a bad one. So you've got to be exceptional to really stand out.
Yeah, I think it's easier to forget a 1800s ghost story than it is the end of the world and stretched out skin lady.
This one introduces the Time War.
Mm-hmm.
It sets up this rift. Actually, this rift does come back later. This episode is referenced. Never mind. As I said, it's literally the setup for a spin-off series. Yeah, so no, it does come back. It's just minor. I love how he rolls with it. Look, Brecken's not that far.
It's another world.
I mean, I've never been, so, you know, could be.
That's funny.
He is very rough, which is nice. It makes sense. I could do a whole video like unpacking every moral side on this argument because there's so much to unpack there.
Yeah.
Because like she clearly doesn't fully understand what's happening because they're not angels. Um, there's the donor card, but it's like the corpses don't consent. Like, you know, you can't take the organs of someone who doesn't have an organ card. There's the fact that, yeah, the doctor's right. And I've said before, if you ever, like, think something is wrong, but can't really point out why or, like, come up with a good, like, reason, it just feels wrong. Like Rosa said, you can't use them. They're just people. It's wrong. She couldn't come up. That means that it's an arbitrary thing. It's gonna, in the future, people are gonna look back and look at the dumb people in the past who felt this way, and that's oh yeah, we established that you can change the future, like in past episodes, which is important. But yeah, I've always said that it's like if there's some weird dumb thing that you can't really defend, it's like it's an arbitrary cultural thing, and it's gonna go away in the future. Trying to think, what's the one that I come up with a lot? I think it's genetic engineering, and like, why don't you make humans that are like, like super strong, or or things like that? And it's like, I can't really tell you why. It just feels kind of wrong and weird. I'm like that. That's because it's not actually. It's just an arbitrary, weird cultural thing. Maybe that's their happy face. Yeah. Oh my goodness, I never got rid of the background, so the audience can't see the blurred version of the episode. Whoops. Oh,
They have their own.
They had the timestamp up. Ow. Rasputin just snapped that guy's neck on, like, family television.
He cracked his back.
Yeah, he popped the thing. I mean, I think I also missed that as a kid. I thought they, like, knocked him out or something. But these early episodes are a little a little more explicit and darker than I think the later seasons. Like when Rose swears, but also
Yeah.
like someone burned to death on screen in the last episode, and you wouldn't
I kind
really
of like
do
it.
that, I think, in a modern episode. Not to a humanoid, at least. Which is wrong, but that's just that's how we do it, you know.
His funeral service is bad at burying people.
Yeah, that's a lot of season 1 episodes. Is they're fantastic with like where the Doctor is in the story. Like for the first time, he's like trusting them and trying to do good, and they betrayed him. It's almost like he can't escape the war and the horrors and stuff. But it's not necessarily something you'd remember later on, thinking back in the episode. Like even I forgot about this angle. Don't be dumb, Rose. Some might even call it a big ball of
Wibbly.
wibbly
Wobbly.
wobbly. There you go. You remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, which Doctor did that? I could see most of them doing it. In my head, it's 8 or 6. 8 or 6 threw boxes at the tea party. But I mean, he threw tea. The Doctor, it'd have to, like 3. I don't think 3 would do that. I struggle. 1 would do it giggling. But in my head, it's just 8. I think it's the dress. The stuff he wears, the 8th Doctor threw tea. No, yeah, 6 would complain. 6 would complain about the waste of tea. It's 8. Naturally, I picked the Doctor that barely exists in the show. Do you think it would have undermined the episode a bit if for no reason their voices got higher because there was gas?
That would have been perfect.
I think in most of his stories as well, he like tries to sacrifice himself. So like, you know, this episode does pull a lot of weight. It's just I do understand why you might not remember it. But it's a good sign if they don't come back to you, because that, you know, you get to enjoy him again.
Yeah.
Fun fact, the first episode, I think, got demonetized because we talked too much about that time he blew up the shop. It has restricted ads.
That's funny.
So we can't talk about that bit.
Yeah, nothing just happened.
Oh,
They
no.
just left the building
Yeah, yeah.
and closed the door. They locked it behind them.
It's a natural fire. Oh, I missed one of my favorite lines when Charles Dickens says, "What the Shakespeare?" Because he can't say what the Dickens, which isn't the origin of the phrase, but I love the joke. I also remember that Torchwood character I mentioned being a descendant of Gwyneth, so I guess she had a baby somewhere.
In the middle.
Oh, see, he was outside there apparently, the coach. Yeah, here's the coach. You can hear it coming. Charles Dickens Edmund. Well, Google wants to say Fitzgerald. Trying to find references to that story he mentioned. Ooh, I like the snow. That was nice. Yeah, I should read the original Christmas Carol.
I did.
It's
That was
not.
a
It's
good
not.
bunch of
Yeah,
characters.
it's not too far off from when Sherlock Holmes was written, and I enjoyed that. Um, but yeah, Unquiet did. Whoops. I have. There we go. You didn't see that. I didn't display the desktop instead of the time bar. Yeah, no, it's. I mean, like it's season one. They're all good ones. Um, but yeah, I quite like that one. I think a lot of people find it maybe It's one of the forgettable ones because I said it does a lot to like the overall kind of
Mhm.
narrative and where the Doctor it does a lot of good things inside itself
It's like planting seeds.
that build overall. But
Mhm.
yeah, it doesn't really have anything extraordinary to lift it off. And in a season where every episode is very solid,
Mhm.
you really kind of need that extraordinary to remember, or you need farting aliens. I guess you need to either be extraordinary or not good. And this next two set. I think if there's a not good episode of the season, it would be these ones, according to common
Mhm.
fan wisdom. I think common fan wisdom often forgets how much good is in these next two episodes.
Yeah.
We don't know if we're going to do them uh, both next week or if we're going to split it. It'll probably depend how we're feeling and how I'm feeling after potentially a two-parter of Star Trek. Um, but yeah, anything else to add?
Um, I don't know. I did like it. I did think everything you said is correct, but I mean, I think it adds some impact to maybe the future episodes of like, yeah, it very much it was like set up. But I like when stories will take their time on the story and like trust the audience enough, kind of that it's like we're gonna take it slow a little bit and set some things up.
Oh, that's this whole 13 episode season is directly dealing with the Doctor's and like his experiences in the Time War, most of which you don't even learn about until like well halfway through, if not the end. Like all the
Mm-hmm.
details. I mean, Daleks, the big one coming up, where we learn a lot of the meat, and that's halfway through. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like Interstellar's after like 12 and 13. I think it'd be really good after like we're through at least the meat of the Time War stuff, like maybe somewhere in the 11th Doctor. If you go back,
Mm-hmm.
I think you add more just kind of knowing what he did in the Time War, more how it affects him later, where he goes. If you look at some of the stuff beforehand, like the classic, you see like how he was before, how much more kind of carefree he is than any of his later incarnations. It adds even more context. If you go to Big Finish, and especially like you see the Eighth Doctor going from like I'll give you some context. You know, the first seven Doctors, well, seven could get a bit dark and manipulative, but the first Doctors were very much like a guy traveling with his friends and having
Yeah.
fun. Like it's very, it like yeah, like they get in dangerous situations and stuff, but it's the Doctor's not some like grand mythical being in the
Mm-hmm.
classics. He's just some guy. Um, it's like something you that's kind of might be surprising if you do go back. He's just some guy. And no one really knows him. Like they might know of the Time Lords, but not the Doctor
Mm-hmm.
specifically. That's a new Who thing.
That's such a
Um,
weird thought.
and so the Eighth Doctor, he had one movie, and like that's the only sort of on screen thing he got. So a lot of his stuff, he had a bunch of comics and the audios I mentioned and that things where he starts off very much a classic Doctor like that, but while they're making these audio dramas specifically with Big Finish, they release new Doctor Who with it, and they learn about the Time War and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
so before they invent the War Doctor, it's always the assumption that the Eighth Doctor is the one who did it. He's the one that pressed the button and like killed his people and ended the Time War. So they take his incarnation very slowly over like 10 like 12, 15 years. Um, and turn him from like a classic one that compared to where he goes through a lot of like kind of heavy things and you see him kind of get more disillusioned to the world. And I'm at the part of the story where like they don't know the Time War is coming, but it's about to start ramping up, and I know they do things with him where he tries to avoid the war is it's raging until he eventually like has to make the decision to join. And when you kind of get those like some of that you can infer if you just by seeing how he is in the classics and in the modern series. But I think this season and why I like the Doctor kind of more every time is just the more context you get from these external things, it adds so much more. um and I guess that audio stuff was added later. Like that didn't exist when these were written. But it's yeah, I think just the more you learn about Doctor Who, you can just keep coming back to this season and getting more and more and more. And yeah, so I would recommend once we get through a lot of the meat of the Time War stuff, that come back and be like, I understand now more and more. And heck, even if you do join me and we finish the classics, be like, yeah, I understand. I get it now.
Yeah, I feel like it's so normal to think of like and understand the tragedy within like the character of the Doctor, but like at the time, shifting the character from like this whimsical guy who goes on fun adventures to like we're gonna take everything from this guy. That's like a big story choice.
Yeah,
A whole new direction.
as I said, the Seventh Doctor could get quite dark and manipulative. Like his last 2 seasons, I wouldn't exactly say he's like fun, carefree. But he's not traumatized. Is the like kind of I guess the key difference. The Eighth Doctor is very much he's like sort of a he like romantic is the word that's thrown around a lot. Not necessarily in like, you know, I'm in love with someone's sense, but it's
Yeah.
I'll show you a picture of him and you'll get what I mean. It's like yeah, he's a fantastic incarnation. He's a lot of people's favorites, which is saying something when his total screen time is like half of a movie. But yeah, I mean, it was bold. I think the main reason he did it, Russell T Davies, was kill the Time Lords, is 2 reasons. One, it really allowed him to kind of start fresh. Like he could leave a lot of the classic lore behind. He could be like, you never have to see Classic Who, because the Time Lords aren't going to show up. They're all dead. You know, that was I think the main driving force. I also understand he didn't really like the Time Lords. You know, you might remember some of the descriptions of it, like they are essentially gods. Like they conquered time, like literally they basically invented time, and like they invented black hole. Like in a lot of the interpretations, the Time Lords invented linear time. They're like incomprehensible gods, one of the oldest civilizations in the universe. That it is, they're gods, like just the power they wield over time and everything, and they're the sole powers to do so. You hear references a lot that when they were around, they basically kept the universe from falling apart and regulated time. And we do run into problems before where, like the Father's Day, the one with Rose's dad, like they start a paradox and it all goes wrong because the Time Lords aren't around to sort it out. But in the classic shows, especially the more we see them, the more you just kind of see like dusty old bureaucrats who like it can be very underwhelming. Which is fair. And like the Time Lords were supposed to be kind of corrupt bureaucrats who sat around and watched the universe but didn't interfere. But some depictions of them are very much just like, welcome to the UK Parliament in the 80s. It's just like, you know, the UK Parliament in the 80s wasn't gods. It was a bunch of old white men who just, you know, were a bit full of themselves. So, like, it's
destroy
kind
them all.
the take that you can't really, especially on TV, show the Time Lords and ever do them justice. They have to be the sort of mythical thing the Doctor references. And
yeah, that definitely...
audio can do it better because you don't have to make like expensive fancy sets. You can just describe things, and that's why the Time War stuff I've mentioned, they can go really crazy because they just have to describe it and make some sounds, and the Time War is just like insane and crazy, and it like they can really capture the horror and just the cosmic insanity that was the Time War. But I mean, you'll see as we go on, especially under Tennant, the way he describes things like the Time War and the Time Lords. It's just like, just gods and doing incomprehensible, like a war that happened across the universe everywhere all at once. But what?
You can't film that.
You shouldn't, and they're just you get kind of glimpses in it with the audio adventures. Like there's one where the Time Lords and the Daleks just the war and briefly enters real space, and it's above a planet, and they're like shooting each other, and then the Doctor appears, the Eighth Doctor, and he like basically shouts and begs at them to just go away, just you fight their war, do whatever, kill each other, just not by this planet. And it's like it's a 15-20 second intro of one of the audio dramas where they're fighting, but they don't listen, and they like detonate some sort of weapon or manage to blow each other up. But the weapon they use, because they were around orbit of this planet that was peaceful, it was like some utopian peaceful planet, they rewrite that entire planet's history that had never known war, so that it was always at war and it always would be. And it's just some hell
Gosh.
planet that it's for the whole universe. You just can't escape it. This planet is now, because of the Time War, always at war and always will be. And it like that's what the Doctor does. Like before he decides to join the war, is desperately just try and protect the universe but fail. And then the story is him on this planet that is now always at war, and he knows, like, you know, normally he comes and saves the day, he like stops the war or whatever, and he knows he can't, because this species has to always be at war. Like it might have brief interludes of stalemates and stuff, but it's just at war, and it didn't have to be this way, and it's because of his people, and he sees it as like his failure. And it's just, that's the kind of context I mean when I watch the Ninth Doctor. But also just like, it was 15-20 seconds of like the Time War literally ruined just an unfathomable entire history of this planet. That peaceful planet never existed. The Master at some point decides to do good. The Time War becomes so bad for him that he decides that he has to do good and stop it. And he ends up accidentally rewriting like the entire history of the universe essentially at random. And because like the thing he used failed, it wasn't capable of rewriting the universe, and so it was like basically the entire universe arbitrarily randomly got rewritten. And that's the thing that terrifies him so much that he runs away to the end of the universe to hide as a human. And that's where we see him in the series, and it's just these crazy like glimpses at the war and what's happening that adds so much to I think these early seasons where we're really dealing with the Time War and what it does to the Doctor. But all would be very difficult to put on screen, which is why he killed them off. Poor Time Lords. Rip.
And I do like how in the act of not showing it, the glimpses of just whenever he's processing or someone mentions something and how uncomfortable he is, that's perfect.
And they do so much good with how, like, especially if you've never seen the classics, how much he builds them up. Like, it's almost unbelievable if you come off the classics and then the way he describes the Time Lords. And he admits later that he's got a very glorified, like, he chooses to remember the good in his people, not the bad. Because the Time Lords were corrupt. Like, the Doctor butts heads with him all the time. Like, the Time Lords aren't good people. But because he killed them off and they're extinct, he chooses to remember his people. Like, that's the version of his people he chooses to remember. Is, you know, the observers who never interfered. Because he just can't bring himself to, you know, face everything they did.
Brutal.
But yeah, we'll get to that. You know, if I whet your appetite, if I got you to stick here for the next 3 years, will you catch up?
It's so sad.
Yeah, it's good storytelling though. You want some Time War audio dramas? I can send them your way with 8 Ward's Master, like
when I need a good cry.
Gallifrey. I'm getting to the point of the series, the Gallifrey audio story where Gallifrey's about to go to war. That's a great range. I haven't liked the middle bit so much. Like they did 4 before the modern series came out. Then they continued it a bit, and then they went into the Time War. Those first 4 are genuinely some of the best Big Finishes ever done. Big Finish Gallifrey. are amazing stories. That obviously take place on Gallifrey. The Doctor's not in them. Some of the companions are, and then they brought back. I'm like, I kind of want to see like. There's just so much weird cosmic horror in the Time War. It's great.
Yeah.
Yep. But anyway, yeah, that's why the Ninth Doctor really didn't want the Gelth to betray him. And, like, how much... Like, when he says that, it's like, I trusted you. That's what I think, is, like, 8 standing in these fields, desperate. Like, that's what his life's been for centuries. And he just so badly wants to be the Doctor again. And just so badly wants to go back to fun space-time adventures. And he just can't so far. And, yeah. What's up, guys? Hello, Jackslaw. We've been talking for, like, I don't know, half an hour about not this episode. We watched it already. Yep, we finished
Relation.
Yeah, tangentially. I mean, we're given context for the Time War that's not going to require Caden to spend loads of money on Big Finish or, like, loads of hours. It's really good. If you ever need something that's, like, just to listen to while you work, or I mean, if you just want to hear the stories as well. But I usually play. I've got some of my highest Steam games. Here's one: Ship Graveyard Simulator 2. Why do I have almost 100 hours in it? Because it's what I do when I listen to Big Finish. Power Wash Simulator. That's Big Finish hours. This puzzle game, that's 200 Big Finish hours. Like, just something kind of mindless task to do. American Truck Simulator, there's some Big Finish hours, 112.
Funny.
Yeah, I was probably going to do some more of that after this. I got those Ninth Doctor ones I want to listen to at some point. Especially if you get into the classics. There's so much good... supplementary material. I've watched some recently. I was going through the Key to Time, some classic Who. I watched a Third Doctor story because I miss them. He doesn't release as much. The Third Doctor Big Finish, great, by the way, even though it's none of the original actors because they're all dead. It happens, but they're all good. It's good. Go out and listen to... That's my goal. You see, Caden, you didn't realize I've trapped you. I used 15, who's very much your Doctor, to get you hooked back into watching the modern, because you'll like that. Eventually, I'm going to use that to rope you into some of the classics. And I'm going to use that to rope you into Big Finish. This is how it goes.
It's a long con.
This is how Doctor Who goes. First, you just start watching Doctor Who, like the modern, then it's over. Well, they got like 26 seasons of that other classic show. You give that a go, and maybe some people skip through the 60s, it's rough, I get it. But once they invent color, you got 3, 4, oh, it's good, but then it's done. You've just finished, your years-long saga. You've done modern, you've done classic, but what's that? There's this company named Big Finish. It's got original voice actors of the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th Doctor, even some of the modern. And what's this? They're clearly numbered monthly adventures. And what's this? The first 50 are free on Spotify? Well, I gotta give them a listen. The first one is Multi-Doctor. And then suddenly you have a collection of Doctor Who audio dramas, all properties... 522 audio folders, because a lot of these have multiple stories in one zip file. And then my new thing is, I've listened to so many of the Doctors, but now they're getting expensive. I started with the older stuff. They're more expensive to purchase. But those companion chronicles are only $3 each, even though they don't have the Doctor. And let me tell you, the companion chronicles are some good stories. Here you go. We got Gallifrey. Oh, it's the first 3. Sorry, they're the really good Gallifrey. We got the War Master. I just love that the best Doctor and the best Master are the ones you never see on screen. There's Unbound's not so good. Anything else? I wasn't a big... Okay, I haven't even finished it. not my favorite. Short trips, pretty good. You get those for free. Look, Caden, it's a world. It's
Yeah, this is a long con you're
it's
running.
when you learn that Big Finish has produced more Doctor Who than the BBC and their monthly adventures alone.
Wow.
Their monthly adventures are a minority of their output. Like,
That is an
that
absurd amount.
Big Finish is a company of fans who wanted to produce Doctor Who once they stopped making the classics. They founded a company to do so, and by God, did it work with them. It's owned in part by the guy who voices every villain. The Daleks, the Cybermen, the Jadoon. If there's a villain who's kind of like nameless ranks, it's probably voiced by Nicholas Briggs.
That's funny. Good
it's,
origin.
It's a good story, but you know, because they were fans, especially their early stuff is good. You want to hear Missy's adventures? Bam. You know what I recently got? Here's some stories about the Master from the TV movie. You know, he's in exactly one story, but I'm gonna listen to them. Yeah.
This is an expansive collection of folders.
You want to see my media? We got movies, shows, Doctor Who, Star Trek, Steven Universe, and new rips. Oh yeah, there's some Torchwood stuff I haven't watched yet. Under my shows, you know, we got Avatar. But under Doctor Who, you got audio dramas, Doctor Who, Sarah Jane, Torchwood, An Adventure in Time and Space, the documentary that's really good. About like the first Doctor's era. Genuinely, if you've never seen An Adventure in Time and Space, probably better if you've seen the first Doctor's era, but if you haven't, that's very good. You know, under Doctor Who, you got classics, middle, and modern. Middle, because they have to order the files alphabetically, and Time War doesn't. Time War comes after M. You know, actually, let's go classics. You've got all the seasons here. Let's go season 9. You've got all the stories here. What's this? The Day of the Daleks original and special? Let's look under here. You got all the episodes in the special. No, it's a system. Here's the movie.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it's
Wow, I am impressed.
Look at this. Well, Caden, here's Modern Who. But then there's all this. I don't even have most of it. Look, we skipped some numbers. It's you're in for a journey you didn't realize. Yeah. One day I'm gonna buy like a Doctor Who comic book and discover. I don't know. Jack Slaw. Yep. You. Yeah. We've been. I'm sorry you missed the episode, Jack Slaw. But. Yeah, you could join us next week for Aliens of London World War III with the Sylvine. Everyone loves the Sylvine is a sentence no one's ever said before and probably never will again. I don't mind them. We'll get to that. But people find them kind of childish, which they are, to be fair. But I think there's plenty of good in that episode. But yeah, I think then we'll end the stream, and then, I don't know, maybe Caden and I will ramble about Big Finish for like 2 hours, but who knows? So I will say thank you all very much for watching. We actually, I'm just looking at the timestamp, we could have watched another episode of Doctor Who in the time we've been talking.
That's funny.
But yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time! And then I gotta go over and hit the stop recording button.